On our 7th wedding anniversary, my wife appeared before me hand in hand with her first love. Julian clasped her fingers tightly, looking at me with a mocking expression. Mia's company is about to go public. All thanks to my help, he sneered. You're just a useless house husband. You don't deserve her. Be smart and divorce Mia as soon as possible. I looked toward Mia. Do you think the same? Her face was indifferent. We're not from the same world anymore. Separating is the best for both of us. I let out a bitter smile. Fine, as you wish. Before the words even finished leaving my mouth, Mia eagerly took out a bank card and handed it to me. William, here's 50,000 yuan. Consider it compensation. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Seeing the urgency in her eyes, I gave a faint, sorrowful smile. I never imagined that our relationship would end with just 50,000 yuan. Originally, I was a judge under Nathaniel in the underworld. Back then, Mia was destitute but kind-hearted, coming daily to pray sincerely at the dilapidated temple where I resided. I was touched by her devotion and begged Nathaniel to let me take human form as William to help her. During the 6 months we spent together, we slowly formed a deep bond. At first, I didn't use my powers to help her directly. We lived off instant noodles in a cheap rental apartment. Every time I spent what little we had to buy some meat, she'd only eat a tiny bit. When I asked why, she'd always say, I don't eat much. You're a man. You need to eat more. But after I finished, she would eat a whole bowl of plain rice herself. Back then I thought, maybe this is what people mean by love. So, I gave her all my heart. Eventually, as our love grew, we walked into the hall of marriage. On our wedding day, I promised her that as long as she stayed true to me, I would ensure her lifelong prosperity and peace. At that moment, I thought, even if I had to break heavenly laws and reveal my identity, I would help her reach the top. She smiled and said, as long as you're with me, I don't need riches or glory. I was moved and began boosting her career. Her wealth soared, but as she grew richer, her attitude toward me grew cold. She began to see me as a burden, someone with a poor background and no education, someone she couldn't show off. I had become worthless in her eyes. The love and vows we once shared had collapsed under the weight of money in just a few short years. Nathaniel had told me that my time in the mortal world would end the moment Mia's love for me vanished, and the riches I forced in her life would slowly fade. Misfortune and disaster would follow her from then on. Snapping out my thoughts, I raised my head with effort and shook it at Mia. No need. We'll just file for divorce in a week. Before Mia could reply, Julian sneered and said, You better take the money. Without Mia, a loser like you probably couldn't even survive. Or what? You want more? Typical greedy leech. Mia also looked at me coldly and said, You think it's not enough? After all these years of living off me, it's already generous. I'm not asking you to pay me back. It's just 50,000. Don't expect a cent more. Just as I was about to explain, a thunderclap roared outside the window. I suddenly coughed up blood, my physical body rapidly deteriorating. Mia's love for me had reached absolute zero. At most, I had 10 days before this mortal shell would completely vanish, and I would return to my rightful post. I never coveted your money. No matter how much you give me, I won't take it. Forcing the words out, I staggered past Mia and Julian, trying to walk out, but a few large bodyguards blocked my path. Mia walked up to me with a mocking face. If you don't want the money, fine. But before the divorce is official, you'd better stay at home and behave. I don't want you spreading nonsense and ruining things between Julian and me, especially with the company about to go public. If you dare try anything, I will break your pathetic legs. Her voice was cold, her eyes void of any emotion. She was desperate to end our marriage. So desperate that she was already planning her next wedding before ours was even legally over. Did you ever truly love me? My face was ashen as I asked the question I feared the most. The memories of our time together still echoed vividly in my mind. I couldn't believe that someone who once loved me could become so heartless so quickly, unless she never truly loved me to begin with. It was all just my wishful thinking. Having finally shed her disguise, Mia looked at me with mockery. You really want to ask me that? Maybe go find a mirror and see for yourself. Did you ever deserve me? In my heart, no one can compare to even a single strand of Julian's hair. Though Mia didn't answer me directly, her words were more than enough. To her, I wasn't even a backup. At best, I was just a toy. The cruel joke was, I had always treated her as the most important person in my life. I silently walked back to the living room, collapsed on the couch, my face full of bitter self-mockery. All our past memories were now like thousands of needles stabbing relentlessly into my already shattered heart. Then Mia pulled out a divorce agreement that would leave me with nothing and shoved it in front of me. Didn't you claim to be so noble, refusing my money? Then sign this now. Once Julie and I get married, I'll set you free. I shook my head firmly. I can't sign this agreement. Otherwise, I guarantee you'll regret it. As an emissary of death from the underworld, I'm bound to Mia by endless karma and fate. If I sever our bond prematurely, her misfortunes will multiply. Though I no longer held any hope for her, we were once husband and wife. Before I leave, I wanted her to retain at least some dignity. But Mia misread my intentions as lingering attachment. Her face twisted with fury. Regret? The only regret I'd have is not being with Julian. William, I've already given you enough face. Don't fucking push your luck. As her voice fell, the bodyguard she stationed at the door charged in and began to beat me mercilessly. I was already on the verge of collapse. In seconds, I was thrown to the ground, screaming in agony as their fists and feet landed again and again. All my silent sacrifices turned into the fuel for their violence, pounding down upon me. It hurt. It hurt so much. I don't know how much time passed before Mia raised her hand, finally signaling them to stop. Julian looked down at my bruised and broken body and said mockingly, "You still won't sign the divorce papers? Are you still hung up on Mia? Let me give you a little show. Maybe that'll knock those foolish thoughts out of your head." To my disgust, Mia didn't reject his disgusting proposal. In fact, she seemed to welcome it. Not once did she look at me, the man who had been by her side for 7 years, who had helped her rise from nothing. Soon, Julian and Mia began kissing passionately without shame. I turned my head away, the hatred and fury inside me crashing like a tidal wave. My heart felt like it was being torn apart, and I couldn't stop trembling. Just as they were about to take things further, I choked out, "I'll sign." The scene before me perfectly echoed the saying, when the heavens wish to destroy someone, they first drive them mad. If they had already lost all sense of decency, then so be it. The karma they invited, they would soon suffer. Julian and Mia finally stopped their obscene act, walked over to me, and sneered. "Looks like this piece of trash finally knows how to read the room," Julian jeered. With that, he tossed the divorce agreement and a pen in front of me. Without hesitation, I painfully picked up the pen from the ground and scrawled my name on the agreement. The moment my name hit the paper, dark energy immediately began to coil around Mia's body. Julian was not spared either. Though less than Mia, his portion was still enough to bring ruin to his life. Misfortune would soon come upon them, but they were completely unaware. Mia wasted no time in calling all her friends and relatives to celebrate. To her, I had been nothing more than an obstacle to her so-called love story. But just after she finished making the calls, her phone rang again. She answered only to hear her assistant's panicked voice. "Ms. Mia, bad news. Our export order was just blocked by customs. If we can't deliver it on time, we'll have to pay millions in penalties." Mia glanced at Julian, then firmly told her assistant to handle it. A few million was a hit, sure, but nothing they couldn't recover from. After all, in her eyes, nothing was more important than Julian. But I, lying broken on the ground, let out a cold, fleeting smile. Their misfortune was already accelerating. Julian happened to catch my faint smirk. He immediately exploded with rage, pointing at me furiously. "You're enjoying this, huh? You piece of trash." Before I could react, he grabbed the ashtray on the table and smashed it against my head. "You think this is funny, huh?" He snarled with every blow, repeating the same words over and over. Now that he and Mia shared common interests, any harm to her was a threat to him. And that one smile of mine made me the perfect target for his wrath. Already powerless to resist, I was left bleeding, twitching on the ground, trying in vain to lessen the pain. I looked at Julian and let out a cold, hollow laugh. I swear you will regret everything you did today for the rest of your life. Just as my consciousness began to blur, Mia finally spoke. Julian, let me handle this. There's something off about him. For a moment, I thought Mia had a change of heart, but the next second, she grabbed a nearby decorative vase and smashed it over my head with all her strength. Bang! Blood gushed from my scalp. Seeing Mia's expression void of any remorse, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. So, in the end, I had given my heart to the wrong person. She hadn't acted out of guilt, but to protect Julian, because I had once told her many times that I was the reincarnation of a judge from the underworld. She never believed me before, but now, for Julian's sake, she chose to believe it just in case. Her devotion to him had reached such extremes. How laughable! My breath gradually weakened. Just before I drew my final one, I heard Mia's icy voice ring in my ears. See, no need to waste any more time on this piece of trash. Just end it once and for all. At the moment of my death, a strange, eerie smile spread across my face. Killing me was no different than killing a god. Even if I didn't return to seek revenge, the heavens themselves would pass judgment. The dark energy around their bodies intensified hundreds of times. Malicious spirits coiled around them. Soon they would face the cruelest retribution imaginable. I don't know how long it had been when I finally woke up again. To my surprise, I hadn't returned to the underworld. Instead, I was lying in a completely unfamiliar room. Just as confusion set in, Mia's best friend, Amelia, walked in from the living room. She rushed to my side, her face full of anger. William, what they did to you was unforgivable. I looked at Amelia and scoffed coldly. Shouldn't you be on Mia's side, too? What new trick are you playing now? After everything that had happened, I couldn't muster the slightest bit of goodwill toward anyone associated with Mia. I didn't want anything more to do with them. After a moment's thought, I struggled to sit up and staggered toward the door. But Amelia grabbed my hand, her voice filled with concern. Please don't misunderstand. I had no idea what they were doing. If I had known, I'd never have anything to do with them again. Just as I was about to shake her hand off, I noticed something shocking. A red thread connected her wrist to mine. Before I could even react, the voice of the matchmaker god, Yula, echoed in my ears. You can't return to your post just yet because your destined love is not yet fulfilled. The woman before you, she is your true fated match. I've already spoken with Nathaniel. You'll stay in a mortal world and live out this life with her before returning. I was just about to question him further, but his presence vanished without a trace. See me frozen in place? Amelia asked with concern. Are you feeling unwell? I'll take you to the hospital right away. She reached for my hand again, gently trying to lead me outside. This time, I didn't reject her kindness. After all, I was now just a mortal. The wounds Julian and Mia left on me had not yet healed. Just as Amelia and I stepped outside, we ran into Mia and Julian, who were preparing for their wedding. When they saw me alive and well, standing before them, their faces filled with utter shock. Why you? How are you still alive? After beating me to death, they had faked a car accident to cover it up and escape legal consequences. They had been sure I was dead, and now I stood before them, very much alive. I walked up to Mia with a sneer and leaned in close to her ear. Do you believe now that I am the reincarnation of the judge of the underworld? I had no intention of hiding who I was. I wanted them to live out their remaining days gripped by fear and despair. Before Mia could speak, Julian angrily grabbed my collar and snarled, "Cut the crap. If you are some judge from the underworld, then I'm the Jade Emperor." No sooner had his words left his mouth than the once clear sky suddenly exploded with thunder and lightning. This matter might not have involved Julian so deeply before, but now his blasphemous words had stirred the wrath of gods and men alike. His fate would likely be even worse than Mia's. As I thought this, a motorcycle came speeding down the street, and in a flash, it slammed directly into Julian. Bang! Julian's body flew several meters through the air before crashing violently onto the pavement. Blood quickly pooled beneath him. Mia stood frozen for a moment, then rushed over to him in panic. "Julian, are you okay?" Julian's leg was clearly broken. Writhing in pain, he shouted at Mia, his face twisted with rage. "Are you ing stupid? What kind of question is that? I've never seen someone as brainless as you. Call the damn ambulance." Despite his insults, Mia didn't get angry. Instead, she tried to appease him with a sycophantic smile. "Julian, don't be mad. I'll call for help right away." Seeing the fawning expression on Mia's face again, I couldn't help but let out a bitter smile. It was clear to anyone with eyes that love, or lack thereof, is easy to spot. And to think I had been foolishly deceived by her for so many years. As these thoughts flooded my mind, Amelia tugged gently at my hand. "Forget them. Let's go to the hospital first." On the way to the hospital, Amelia asked angrily, "If you hadn't been lucky this time, you would have died at their hands. Have you considered calling the police?" I shook my head with a faint smile. People like that will be dealt with by fate. Reporting them would be too easy. Let's wait. It won't end well for them. At this point, they were already shrouded in bad karma. From now on, they could forget about living a peaceful life. Amelia nodded, clearly agreeing with me. "You're right. They'll definitely get what they deserve." When we arrived at the hospital, Mia had gotten there before us and was already in a heated argument with a man in an executive jacket. With a stormy expression, she threatened the middle-aged man in front of her. "If you know what's good for you, let us into the emergency room first. If anything happens to Julian, you'll regret it." It was obvious the man in the executive jacket held a high status, but Mia had completely lost her mind. In her world, no one mattered more than Julian. After threatening him, she signaled to the bodyguards behind her to move in. As they surrounded the man, I clearly saw the black aura around Mia thicken significantly. At that moment, I finally saw the karmic entanglement. Everything began with Julian, and it would all end with Julian. The man in the executive jacket glanced at her coldly. "Do you even understand reason? We got here first. Who gave you the right to make threats?" But Mia, already blinded by rage, completely lost control. The moment she heard him speak, she shouted at her bodyguards. "What are you waiting for? Get him!" The bodyguards hesitated for a moment, but remembering the generous pay Mia had promised them, they attacked the man without further thought, beating him violently. Soon, the man was knocked to the ground, unable to resist. Only then did Mia swagger into the emergency room with Julian. Ever since she gained power, she'd acted like she was above everyone. Amelia was about to call the police, but I stopped her in time. "Leave them be. Let's go find a doctor." Since the matchmaker god had already told me Amelia was my destined one, I didn't want her entangled in Mia's karma. Given the man's status, I knew it wouldn't be long before Mia faced a storm of retribution. After a full physical examination confirmed this body was in good condition, I turned to Amelia with interest and asked, "Do you want to become a successful woman like Mia?" Since Amelia was my true match, I was determined to help her. No matter what she wanted, I would do everything I could to make it happen. To my surprise, Amelia shook her head without hesitation. "As long as we can both live safely and peacefully, I don't want anything else." Seeing the conviction in her eyes, I knew she wasn't joking. Still, I took out a coin and placed it in her hand. "Keep this coin safe. It'll be of great use to you in the future." This coin was once my personal magical artifact, capable of warding off evil, attracting fortune, and bringing peace. I had originally planned to give it to Mia as a gift on our 7th wedding anniversary. Now, it rightfully belonged to Amelia. Even if we didn't change our current lifestyle, it would ensure a future of peace, health, and wealth. Amelia looked at the exquisite coin in her hand with delight. She gave me a shy smile. "Did you already know I had feelings for you?" Before I could answer, she continued, "I've liked you for a long time. But back then, you were married to Mia, and I couldn't bring myself to ruin someone else's family. But now, can you give me a chance to walk through the rest of life hand in hand until we grow old together?" A gentle smile bloomed on my face. What a coincidence! I was thinking the exact same thing. In the days that followed, we didn't return home. Instead, Amelia and I traveled together, exploring countless beautiful places. As we spent more time together, our bond deepened rapidly. We had become indispensable parts of each other's lives. Not long after we went public with our relationship, Mia called me again. Though her voice was tired, her tone remained arrogant as she questioned me. "William, when did you and Amelia get together? No wonder I haven't seen you in so long. You two must have been having an affair all along." I snorted coldly and retorted, "Don't forget, we've been divorced for a while. There's no relationship left between us." All the ties between us had ended the moment she smashed that vase on my head. Besides, I had signed the divorce papers. Now, to me, she was no different than a stranger. Her angry questioning at this point was simply meddling too much. On the other end of the phone, Mia's emotions seemed to collapse in an instant. She finally lowered her tone and, with a sob, said, "William, please come back. So much has happened while you've been gone. I'm barely holding on." Since her relationship with Julian became public, nothing had gone right for her due to the bad karma. If things continued like this, she might even end up back in the state where she was struggling to get by. Having lived a life of luxury, the thought of returning to the past terrified her. So, she was thinking about the things I once said to her, whether they were true or not, and hoped to change things. I sarcastically asked her, "If I come back now, what happens to your Julian? What will he do?" It seemed that her relationship with Julian wasn't as deep as I thought. Just a short while had passed, and already they couldn't handle the bad luck. Mia hesitated on the other end. "Let's not talk about this now. Can we meet and talk in person? We've been together so long. Our bond can't be compared to that Amelia's." Without thinking, I immediately hung up the phone. I could already guess her situation was bad, but it was too late for us. There was no turning back now, and Amelia was 1,000 times more important to me than Mia. Just as I was preparing dinner for Amelia, she suddenly handed me her phone. "Darling, Mia really is in trouble. Her company is facing a severe financial crisis, and it's about to go bankrupt." I took the phone and saw that the reason for her downfall was the influential figure she had offended at the hospital. Just as I handed the phone back to Amelia, there was a sudden frantic knock at the door. When I opened the door, it was Mia. She looked disheveled, her spirit completely broken, no longer the arrogant woman she once was. I looked at her coldly. "What are you doing here?" Right now, Amelia and I were in the middle of deepening our relationship. I didn't want her to be affected by an outsider like Mia. But Mia suddenly grabbed my collar, hysterically shouting, "I've lost everything. Not only is my company on the verge of bankruptcy, but even Julian has left me. Tell me, are you the one behind all this?" Before I could respond, Mia suddenly knelt before me. "William, if I've wronged you in the past, I apologize now. Please let us go." Okay. It seemed that by now she had fully believed in my true identity as the judge of the underworld. Otherwise, she wouldn't have lowered herself so much. I glanced at her coldly. Isn't it a little late to apologize now? She deceived me for 7 years and even humiliated me alongside Julian. Now she thinks a simple apology will make me forgive her. It wasn't that easy. Besides, the karmic debt between us couldn't be resolved with just a few words from me. She had to repay what she owed. This was the punishment from the heavens. Mia, upon hearing my words, began to cry uncontrollably, clutching at my pants. "William, we were once husband and wife. How can you be so heartless? I've already cut ties with Julian. Please forgive me just this once. I promise I'll never wrong you again." Even though she no longer had any feelings for me, she still wanted to hold on to her current life. So today, no matter what, she was trying to charm me back into staying with her. Hearing her words, Amelia, who had been standing behind me, couldn't hold back her anger anymore. "How dare you say something like that? When you and Julian tried to kill William, didn't you think about being husband and wife? Now that William and I are about to get married, do you really think it's appropriate for you to come here and say these things?" "What? You're about to get married?" Hearing Amelia's words, Mia's face filled with disbelief. In her mind, I had always been devoted to her. Now, less than a month later, I was about to marry Amelia. This was far beyond her expectations. "William is already divorced from you. Am I supposed to let him keep staying with this poisonous woman? Amelia's face was full of mockery. If it hadn't been for her saving me that day, I might have truly left this world for good. So, her hatred for Mia was deep. While we were talking, Julian, his head wrapped in bandages, walked out of the elevator. He froze for a moment when he saw Mia. Before Mia could react, Julian suddenly kneeled before me. William, I was wrong. I really was. Please, just let me go this one time. If you forgive me, I'm willing to be your slave for the rest of my life. Since the last incident, he had been struck with bad luck. Not only had he lost relatives, but his business had encountered problems as well. Even walking down the street, he would be randomly beaten up. He thought about the words I had said to him, and now he had a deep respect and fear for me. I looked at them with interest and said, "You think I'll forgive you just because of a few words? Do you think it's that easy? If you want to beg for mercy, you need to show some sincerity." As soon as I finished speaking, both of them turned to look at each other. Subconsciously, they each blamed the other for provoking me. The atmosphere between them became tense, as if a fight was about to break out. After a moment, Julian suddenly snarled at me. "I never had any feelings for this underscore. If you forgive me, I'll break her legs right now and have her lie in bed for the rest of her life." Clearly, he cared more about his future than any feelings between them. Mia, who had still held on to a shred of hope for Julian, completely collapsed emotionally after hearing his words. "Julian, I ruined my life for you, and this is how you treat me?" Julian laughed loudly after hearing her words. "Mia, this is all your own delusion. I never asked anything of you, including the divorce with William. You were the one who brought it up first." Just as Mia was about to continue arguing with Julian, her phone suddenly rang. On the other end, her assistant urgently said, "General Manager Mia, the last of our company's funds have been taken by Julian's people. If this money disappears, we won't even be able to pay our employees." Mia's face turned as pale as a ghost. Her expression twisted with rage as she looked at Julian, her eyes filled with madness. "Julian, you were with me just for my money, weren't you?" Before Julian could respond, Mia suddenly pulled a knife from her pocket and stabbed it into Julian's chest. Her mind was always sharp. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to deceive me for so many years. On the matter of Julian, she didn't even need him to speak to know the truth. Julian had never loved her. He had been getting close to her only for her money. It was laughable that she had thought Julian was her one true love. It was as if her past actions were now returning to haunt her. Just like that saying goes, the wheel of fate turns. No one can escape its justice. She had wronged me all those years, and now the consequences were catching up with her. Julian glanced at the knife in his chest, then looked at Mia, about to speak when Mia pulled the knife out and stabbed it into his chest again. Seeing Mia, who had completely lost her mind, I stepped forward to shield Amelia behind me and said, "I didn't expect you to be this ruthless. You could even stab Julian." It was clear that Mia's malice had reached a new level. After all, Julian had been the most important person in her life. I couldn't believe she was willing to stab him. As I was thinking, Julian's life had already slipped away. Mia, with her hair disheveled, looked like a demon from the underworld. Once she realized Julian was beyond saving, she turned to face me. "I know I've been completely wrong all this time. I don't expect your forgiveness, but please don't blame me." I shook my head. "Do you think it matters to me now?" After this, Mia would definitely face legal consequences. There was no point in discussing things further. She didn't realize her wrongs. She only knew she was at her wit's end. With that thought, I immediately dialed the police. She had committed a crime, and I couldn't let her off the hook. Soon, the police arrived and took Mia away in a police car. Watching her familiar figure fade into the distance, I felt no emotion in my heart. "Are you really the judge of the underworld?" Amelia suddenly asked beside me. I nodded and made a playful face. "That's right. I'm from the underworld." Scared, Amelia hugged me tightly and said, "No, I'm not afraid. No matter who you are, I'm not afraid." Looking at Amelia's sincere expression, I smiled and nodded, my voice filled with affection as I said, "Then will you marry me?" With that, I took out the ring I had prepared in advance, got down on one knee, and looked at Amelia with sincere eyes. After spending so much time together, I realized she was the woman I wanted to spend my life with. Now, I just wanted to marry her as soon as possible. After all, it's not easy to encounter a sincere relationship in this world. Amelia, with tears glistening in her eyes, nodded and took the ring from my hand. From now on, we'll be together forever and never be apart. Soon after, Amelia and I successfully walked into the halls of marriage. Her career and wealth flourished under the blessing of my powerful artifact, and within just a few years after our marriage, she had achieved financial freedom. However, unlike Mia, who, after getting rich, first took a sword and used it against her loved one, Amelia would call me several times a day while at work, making sure every detail of my daily life was well taken care of. Whenever I tried to tell her not to work so hard, she would look at me with a little reproach and say, "I'm your wife. If I don't care about you, who will?" As for Mia, after being arrested for intentional murder, she was diagnosed with severe mental illness. She is now locked away in a psychiatric hospital. I'm very satisfied with this outcome. For a woman as vicious as her, living on is the greatest punishment. In the third year of our marriage, we had our own child, and Amelia handed over the company's affairs to the responsible manager to handle. 6 months after our child was born, we embarked on a world tour. Traveling the world had always been Amelia's dream, and now that our little family of 3 was complete, it was the perfect time to explore the beautiful sights of foreign lands. During the trip, Amelia suddenly sighed. How wonderful it would be if we could always be together like this. I heard her words and gently spoke to her. Don't forget who I am. I'm the judge of the underworld, and I hold the book of life and death in my hands. As long as you wish, we could be together forever through all lifetimes. Amelia nodded heavily, holding my hand tightly, and said, "All right then,